into Facebook. I'm getting better at sharing to Facebook, so that's good. Just it'll take me like 20 seconds or so.
Sure. Whilst we wait, Judith,
Yes, you go.
just an admission on my part. I'm also an ex-Royal Signals traffic officer, so I know GDPR pretty well. There we go.
There we go. And we're just about to go live. And it's working. It didn't work for about a week or so, so it's now working, which is wonderful. I just need to wait till it comes up, and then I'll have you in view. And excellent. So let's get started, everybody. So welcome to our 5th session of the Voices of Strength Summit. And what a start we've had to the summit. Amazing men who have found the courage in sharing their stories, who are forging their own path and living life on their terms. They're putting their 2 fingers up to the world that says this is how a man should act. No, these 17 men have found their own path. And we've got an amazing, amazing man with us today. We've got the wonderful George Greig, author, speaker, entrepreneur, ex-military in the Royal Signals, as he's already said. If I said the right thing this time, yeah. Royal Signals, all about communication. He's got an IT company, and there we have it. I've introduced him that way, so I won't be going back. But this is what George has got to say on leadership. Leadership isn't about physical strength, individual capability, or supreme intelligence, but about having the character to influence and maximize the efforts of others towards the achievement of a goal. And George is going to speak to us today about being open and honest and how he uses those values to run his business and, most importantly, his life. So, George, over to you.
Thank you, Brenda. Well, folks, I'm not sure how many people are out there, but I'm just as passionate if there's one as if there's 101. So for me, I want to delve into the story of leadership a little bit, because that is something that I've always been immensely passionate about. And it's because of an absolute belief in leadership. So what underpins my business and life model? Well, that belief first came to fruition as a 16-year-old boy when I was in the Army Apprentices College in Harrogate. And for me, it was kind of a fresh start from a wasted education. And it wasn't wasted because I was not interested, or I would like to think unintelligent. I was very interested. I was very dedicated as a person, always have been. But I didn't have a great start because all I wanted to do was to get to the world of work, to make some money, to help my parents out, and to do my little bit. That was naive. And actually, in the first job that I landed as a stonemason up in the northeast of Scotland, I very quickly realized just how cold it was in the winter, as my fingers nearly dropped off numerous times. So within about 5 months, I decided, okay, it's time to grow up. You need to carve a career. What do you want to do? I had shown previous interest in the army. I'm not particularly from a military background. My father was in the RAF and served in Singapore for 5 solid years, which wasn't too bad because he joined for a 2-year period on national service. But he liked Singapore. There's a strange one. Had his own monkey, all those sort of tricks. Anyway, I decided that laying bricks wasn't for me. It's a long story. It's in my memoir. Should anyone want to read that particular memoir, called Untapped Potential. Cutting to the chase, I decided one particularly cold, wet, windy day in the northeast that it was time to join the British Army. I climbed down, went and for the first time in my life, resigned, which I think actually just made the manager laugh a little bit. A 16-year-old upstart stonemason resigning didn't actually go down particularly well, but it gave him a great laugh. He then extended that laugh by saying to me, well, you're 11 miles from home, George. Enjoy the walk. I managed to do some thinking on the walk home, and that thinking was, I'm going to be the best I can be. If it's as a soldier, happy days, that's what I'll drive at. 15 promotions later, through all the ranks as a boy soldier, all the ranks as an adult soldier, and on into commissioned life. 15 promotions is more than a 5-star general if he started as an officer at Sandhurst. Now, that's not bad. It was by choice. When I finished in the Army Apprentices College in Harrogate, when I got my first command at 16 years old, I was absolutely clear that what I needed to do was to go through the ranks again. So when they offered me, as was standard from the college, to be commissioned as a second lieutenant at 18, I said, thank you very much. No, thanks. I want to be a warrant officer class 1. I would like to be a yeoman of signals, and I want to be commissioned. I went through life, absolutely loved every second of it, loved it. The people were fantastic. I've got friends now that I can reach out to nearly 50 years later, never having seen them in between. And we still share the same friendship, commitment, everything. But I'm not, and I don't want you to think I'm army-barmy. Much more important, I'm not an autocrat. That got a lot of people out when I transitioned from the army, because they all anticipated, an ex-warrant officer who had a very loud voice, all very true, but I just didn't want to bring that to any party ever. As part of a technical corps, the best thing for me was the ability of those people to think, to contribute. And it was always my greatest pleasure to make sure that they got the opportunity to make that contribution. We employed bright people in the technical course, as most people realize. So I wanted them to have their say. Nothing used to make me happier than when you got a young, naive soldier who would challenge a brigadier, as long as he did it properly. And usually the guys that did it, or girls that did it really well, very convincingly, and presented a great case for their future. And that meant a great deal to me. So moving on from there, I guess leadership, my drivers, and this is my copyright, 2 words: leadership matters. Now, I have posted on this, I have copyrighted it, but just for simple sort of ease of understanding, leadership, if you take the first letter, stands for loyalty, empathy, accountability, development, enjoyment, respect, support, hope, inclusivity, and people. Leadership. Matters stands for mentoring, appreciation, trust, teamwork, empowerment, reliability, and strategy. That means everything to me, but the most important thing of all, from a leadership point of view, we talk about 15, I think, at this current moment in time, styles of leadership. For me, there are 2. Everything else is how you conduct yourself in a leadership environment. And the 2 that I'm talking about are obviously straightforward, as was mentioned to me, autocratic leadership. Second is democratic leadership. Let me be clear, folks, all of them will work if they're implemented properly with the person, people, central, all the time, every time. People are always the number 1 asset. And I I feel immensely strongly about that. That's not to say I know everything. I've been around long enough to know that I don't. But I know that if you take care of the people will take care of you. As a leader that was thought to be autocratic, as he stepped across at the transition to the industry, the world of industry, I think I knocked most people back by virtue of the fact that I just wasn't an autocrat, that I desperately wanted even the most junior person to speak, male, female, I do not care. Why would I? I've worked for some of the best leaders in my life who are female. I'm very proud of that. And the good thing, of course, is you learn something from everybody if you're listening. I do tend to try hard to ensure that I listen. And as I've said, I don't deny other styles of leadership ever, because it's astounding just what can work as long as you keep the people at the center. So why the open, honest, and transparent piece? Well, because that's how I have always believed in living my life. And let's be very clear, and I think everyone on the call knows this, people recognize and see through bluffers. That's just a fact. And anybody that's comfortable with that, there's something wrong with them, and they will never be a leader. So you've got to give credit to your people, recognizing them as number one. As someone that was in love with the army, there's no question whatsoever that deciding to leave was a massive choice on my part. I could have served on for 15 years. Because of the rules at that stage, I would only have had one more promotion from major to lieutenant colonel. I didn't want that. And I knew that the military were not going to change the rules for me. Why should they? They've changed now, but I left 23 years ago. They changed the rules, I think, about 8 years ago. And I'm proud to say the first guy across the line to full colonel as a late entry soldier was one of my very close friends. And I admire him tremendously. We're still fantastic friends. He's retired from the military now. So I think if I look at the transition into civilian life, where people would have expected this potential monster, I was very, very quickly, very easily able to just get along with folk, get them to understand that, to me, I just wanted to be a leader in the way that worked for them. And actually, it's really easy in so much as, forgive me, I'm not dismissing complexity, but if you do keep a mind on leadership matters, on the desire always from within to be the best you can be, you're kind of halfway along the road. So that was working for me very quickly. And I was delighted because I kind of had maybe a similar view that everything would be really easy going, lazy, lackadaisical, laissez-faire type thing. Not the case. I've worked in industry for some superb leaders that are so talented, so skilled, and were so willing to share with me what the lessons from industry were to be. But it didn't change my view that I needed to be me. I needed to be central focus on people. I needed to drive everything I could to make the people, the staff, the best they could be. And every single one of them that went on to be promoted from the many teams that I was very lucky to be able to build, every promotion meant something to me. Probably sometimes more to me than to them. Maybe that was partly to do with my military background. I'm not sure, but it was definitely something that I truly enjoyed. So with a passion for building great teams, industry delivered that to me. I've therefore been very comfortable for the last sort of 20 of the 23 years. And I'll explain why I break that off in a second. I'm really, really pleased that I worked for some fabulous companies with some great leaders, some terrible leaders, some people that should never be given the opportunity to lead again, in my opinion, because they lacked empathy, they lacked interest, they were opposed to so many of the things that flow through my blood, my veins, and the "no I in team" is a quote that I've got branded on my heart. It's not about I, me, it's about the team always. And that has served me well. And I've been able over the years to move between jobs, always leaving a great legacy in terms of the people, where we were as a team, what they had managed to achieve. And some of them have gone on to be MDs, chief execs in their own right. That's what life's about. That's where happiness truly comes from, giving something back. And I'm completely crystal clear on that. Because I'm a delivery guy from a focus perspective, when I entered the life of a project manager in industry, I was very conscious that I had hooks into lots of people. So it doesn't take a great brain, and I'm not claiming it does, to realize that you've got to look after those folks to make sure that they in turn will give everything to you, to your project, and much more importantly, to your customer. So my customer mostly were not used to being open, honest, and transparent. And I'll tell you, actually, from within industry, most companies are not happy to champion that. And I say that purely because it's true, because I've seen some really quite sad scenarios where massive multi-million-pound projects have been going wrong, and every effort has been expended to try and carry a message that's far too positive to the customer. I found very, very quickly that if you're open, honest, and transparent, you've got the customer. If they know that to be the case, if they know that's what you are totally committed to, they'll accept problems. What they'll never accept, and they shouldn't ever accept it, is firstly, anybody that's lying. Secondly, people that are beefing up the truth for just cosmetic reasons. If you tell the customer there's an issue, funny old thing, they'll work with you to make it better. They will trust you. Your relationship will grow. All of these good things come directly from being open, honest, and transparent. In terms of some other wider issues that I've been very aware of, is that I was able, luckily, to be able to bring my first career skills, and by first career, I am talking about the military, not the bricklaying. There are some interesting lessons from the first, but I'm talking about from military background into my second career. In fact, one prepared me completely with the skills I needed for the second. That's why I've been so successful in building great teams. And that's not a claim, and I'm not the sort of person to claim credit for anything that hasn't been told to me. Many of my past CEOs, MDs, etc., have been the first to say to me, George, you've built fantastic, trustworthy teams in your own image. And I treat that as a great, great honor, to be frank about it. I was still a young guy when I transitioned. I was just 40-ish, 41, I guess. And I wanted a career, but I wanted a career that would let me grow further. So take all those skills that I learned at Staff College, at the Army Apprentices College when I started, out in the field army. I wanted to take all of those things that were based around people and bring them to bear for the good and benefit of people in industry. As I say, some people were very shocked by that, but pleased, I think. Quite a few of them were, I think, very surprised that I had so much interest in them. Well, it starts with interest. If you're not interested in people, don't lead them, because it won't work. So I kept sort of, if you want, upskilling through various channels, but being able to continually grow the team standards, the team payback. And it kind of all stems from empathy. And the first thing that struck me from an empathy point of view is I absolutely hated when one of the best men I've ever met, I've ever had work with me and for me, an Oxbridge student who'd been with the same company for 35 years at the time, said, as I joined a new company, oh, he said, we don't get promoted here, George. So I said, really? I said, that's a bit of an insight, a bit of an oversight, I beg your pardon. No, it's just process. It's how it goes, George. I said, well, his name was Anthony. That's as far as I'll go. I said, Anthony, I'm going to change that. And the same guy actually proved to me that I'd made a bit of a difference when I stepped away from that company. This guy, who was an A student from Oxford in applied mechanics or something tortuous like that, he said to me, George, you're the best manager I've had. And that was very, very leveling for me, because it said to me, you're getting your life's ambition right. So onwards and upwards, I guess. 35 years this guy had been to the company. I'm pleased to tell you he's just about to retire. He's been with one company from uni right the way through to retirement. And he is without doubt one of the best guys I've ever worked with. I think there's a bit of a sort of nonsense out there that leaders are born. Yes, some will be, but they can be made. And they can be made dependent on the quality of training, what they're being taught, how they're being taught, how they're made to feel as they're being taught, how they're being managed and led as they're going through these processes. And what a lot of people forget is it's our responsibility as leaders to grow every member of the team. And like I said before, that's the pleasurable bit. Watching them get promoted, that's what really, truly matters. I think it's fair to say you should always remember it's an honor to manage and to lead, particularly. Leadership demands the best that you can be. And as long as you are the best that you can be, you've done your job. Whether it's good or not, you will get, if you're running the team properly, through feedback. You should always remember to gain feedback, to listen to it, to respect it, to mutually support people. All of the things I've mentioned in that branded set of words. As Brenda said, my own view is it's not about physical strength. It's not about individuals' capability, knowledge. It's not about supreme intelligence. It's about having the strength of character to be able to influence people to do things the right way, to the best of their ability, and to try and achieve the goals that have been set. If you remember that and you can deliver that, then in my opinion, you've got the basis of a great leader. It's in the majority of us, not in all of us. That just wouldn't be realistic, but we can all learn. I'm buoyed up by the amount of interest there is in leadership, but I have to say, I think there are too many leaders out there at the moment, and perhaps it would be more useful if people were just a little bit more robust on occasion in some of the advice that they give. It's perfectly feasible for a manager to be completely outstanding and yet never have an ounce of leadership quality within them. That's fair enough. The world, industry, we all need outstanding managers, but we also need outstanding leaders. Thank you very much. Sorry I've rattled on a bit. If anyone has any questions, I'm pleased to take anything you may have.
Thank you very much indeed. So, does anybody have any questions before I ramble on?
Hi, this is Judy out of Chicago.
Yes, hi Judy, hi.
So this was so great. I just love your acronym, such an easy way to remember about leadership matters.
Yes.
I do have a question.
Of course.
So through your journey, did you have anyone that challenged your leadership? And if so, how did you handle that?
Judy, yes, I did. And I don't think you'll be surprised by that. I think most of the challenge came from people that didn't like me exposing the fact that they lacked empathy, that they lacked focus on the number one asset, which is always people, that they would like to take the easy route to solving a problem. People that suffer from blame culture, all those sort of things, usually had some form of question for me. And quite often they would try, initially, they would certainly try to dress it up as, why are you so interested in others? Why are you working so hard? You've got your job to do. And my answer would always be, so does my job as head of defense sales or whatever it was at the time, does that not include leadership? If it does not, who leads the sales team? Who sets their standards, their goals? Who manages their ambitions? Who gets amongst them to make sure that they can be the best they can be? Because I'm going to do exactly that. Any problems? And usually, I'd be lighthearted. There'd be a laugh and a chuckle sometimes. And I can think of and I would never name anyone, of course not. But I will be honest, my last corporate job, I stood up in the boardroom. I walked up to the CEO at the time, and I was the chief delivery officer in this particular company. And I said to him, I've never seen such pathetic performance in terms of how you treat people. They're human beings, they have a life. People are our number one asset, and you need to be sacked. And you won't be surprised, Judy, we shook hands and he escorted me off the premises. But 2 weeks later, and I went on 3 months of garden leave, where they paid me to realize a dream, which was to start up my own software company. We're a £1 million company inside 3 years, and do everything else that I just absolutely love. And every aspect of it is down to my time as a soldier, for which I will be eternally grateful.
Oh, that's great. Sorry, I didn't realise you wasn't muted when I burst out laughing. I like that. It's got to you off the premises. Yeah, you see, and that's the thing. I do believe we have to listen to our values and be principled, because I say to people, it's not just about what you stand for. You have to be conscious and aware of what you stand against, because when you have such principles that are focused on people, and then you see them not being realized by others, I do think we have a duty to say something, and too many people are afraid to stand up for principles. So I don't know what you want to think about that, but that's what I believe anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's a really interesting point, Brenda. A friend of mine said to me the other day, oh, I've been talking to such and such, a lady that she's been in my team before, And he said, he didn't know that. And he said to me, yeah, but she asks lots of questions, George. And I went, brilliant. I know her. I love her questions. I love the fact she asks questions, because guess what? It shows that she's interested. And with a person like that, and someone as honest as this lass is, she's asking because she doesn't know. And that's how we all learn. And if we don't ask, we continue not to know, and we continue to be less effective. So, you know, I was made up when he mentioned the name of the girl in question.
Professor Jagdish, if you've got anything to say, because I know you're a great leader. Yeah. We listened to you earlier today. What would you like to say in light of what George has conveyed to us today?
Thank you, George, for
my pleasure, judges.
Enlightening discourse on leadership, which is one of the favorite topics of me also. I think a job of the leader is to create more leaders rather than more followers.
Correct.
And if we have to bind the team together, then the glue is trust, mutual trust. That is the glue that binds team members and the leader together. So the responsibility to become an effective leader, in my view, is the number one quality is to develop trustworthiness of leader.
That's
Leader
one
must
of
be
the
trustworthy.
that's one of the T's, Jagdish.
Yeah.
Trust.
Trust, yeah,
And
absolutely.
that will create the mutual respect.
Yeah.
For each other. Yeah.
But you know what? I love the word mutual, because it's about mutual respect. It's about mutual support. It's about everything being mutual.
Yeah,
that's the key. Yeah.
Equality for me. Now, Judith, I'm going to bring you in, Judith, because Judith's got a very interesting thing about questions, haven't you, Judith? Judith knows exactly the right or even the wrong question to use, but she will get to the truth, and that's what we're talking about here, being open and honest. Judith, what would you like to say about that?
Oh, Brenda, I've got a reputation to uphold now, and on a call in front of thousands and thousands potentially of people. Oh dear. Well, they do say the proof of the pudding is in the eating, so let's see if I can ask a suitably awkward question like I did in Royston's head last time. I know that's what you want.
There's no such thing as an awkward question.
Oh, really?
Oh, you've not heard this question yet.
I was assuming you might know what I meant when I said I was the Royal Signals traffic officer. So shoot.
Well, I mean, I am expecting you to start getting Morse code and maybe even, is it semaphore flags and stuff for signals corps? Or have I got that completely wrong? I know we did a little bit of it in the guides, but
like all questions, 50-50 in that case.
But you know, and I expect there was a little bit of radio and stuff perhaps as well. You know, this is my limited knowledge of the signals corps. People who are in the signals corps, I can see you laughing already, right? And other people who are in the signals corps now are going, she has not got a clue, but that's okay because that's not my job, so I'm all good.
You know what,
but,
Judith, I would never say.
Don't provide anybody out there, especially if you're in the US. But anyway, influence. You mentioned influence. So top tips for influencing others is my question.
Yeah, absolutely fair question, and a damn good one. So I would say you've got to play to your strengths, because that's where you will be most convincing. For me, my strengths are being absolutely open, honest and transparent. So that's what that's why my favorite quote is what it is. And I use it regularly, and I use it to a point where people will often say to me, you really meant that, George. And of course, when I say to a customer who's gushing because one of my PMs has said, oh, it's all good, everything's working, it's great. And I say, hang on a second. That's not really the case, Bill, or whomever the name may be. what's happening with X, Y, or Z, where I know there is a problem. Now, they very seldom get caught out with that, simply because, Judith, they know that's my style. And if I know there's a problem and they don't share it with our customer, I will shred them. Literally speaking, of course. Now, it's about standing up for your word. You can't hold up this banner that says open, honest, and transparent, but only one way. It's a two-way street. It has to be a two-way street. And you know what? To be honest, that was a great question, by the way, because that's one of the things that allowed me to be the person that I want to be. I want to be open. I want to be honest. I want to be transparent. And one of the fabulous things about it is, as you grow older, you're able to be ever more so. Hi, Dexter. So how why wouldn't you embrace that ability? It's a God-given right to be honest. And if you use it, you'll get a lot of respect. Difficult sometimes. And I have been caught in the past where the open, honest, and transparent did backfire, because it meant that there was a lot of money that needed to be spent to overcome the problems that I was adamant we were going to share. And it was with a very senior police officer, chief constable, who was horrified. But he still said to me, that took a bit of guts, George. It didn't really. It just took integrity. You're on mute, brother. You're still on mute.
Sorry. I'm just saying we've come to the end of this session. It's the first session we've overrun. Dexter's here. Dexter's up next. Dexter, let me just address George and thank him. Thank you, everybody, for coming along and listening so intently. Thank you for your interesting questions, of course. And George, thank you for sharing your wisdom and being open and honest with us. We love that, and I know that's definitely, as a woman of integrity, I resonate with that so much. And I know everybody on this call here right now are driven by integrity. Absolutely. So everybody, thank you for joining in again. You'll be able to hear George over and over again. If you've missed him, don't worry, we'll be sharing these wonderful sessions for the next few weeks and months. We'll be having a podcast called One Voice. So watch out for that in the near future too. So thank you very much for joining. This is Brenda saying, remember, be brilliant. Much love. Until the next session, which is in 10 minutes time, toodle pip. So thank you very much.